Good morning and welcome into First Take. Molly Camrose back here in New York City. Max and Stephen A. are in LA. Good morning, guys. Yesterday was a beautiful ceremony filled with laughs and tears from Staples Center, the house that Kobe built, as thousands gathered to celebrate the life of Kobe and Gianna Bryant. You just heard his wife, Vanessa, speaking through tears, sharing memories of her late husband and 13-year-old daughter. As you just heard her saying, God knew they couldn't be on this earth without each other. He had to bring them home to heaven together. Stephen A., those comments, her poise, her grace, and how she said, we're still the best team. You've got Gigi. I've got our three other girls. That's what really stood out to me amongst all the powerful words we heard. What stood out most to you from the memorial?
Just her period. You know, regardless of the loss that so many have suffered, whether it's Michael Jordan, it's Shaq, it's former teammates, it's contemporaries in the NBA, it's those of us who've covered the NBA and knew him for so long. Nothing compares to the loss that she has suffered along with her children. Three little girls no longer have their father or their sister. She, as his wonderful wife, no longer has her husband nor her daughter. And the loss that she has suffered, it can't be measured. It's just incredibly heart-wrenching, and there is no other way to slice that. I don't know how on earth she gumptioned up the strength to step on that stage in front of 20,000 people and speak as eloquently, as beautifully about Kobe Bryant and about their daughter Gigi the way that she did. It was absolutely phenomenal. It really highlighted for me why it was so easy for him to be this girl dad per se, because when you have a wife like that who has stood by him through thick and thin, who has been his rock, his foundation, she was everything to him. And he religiously said to anybody who he knew well enough to say it to that she was far more than he deserved in his eyes, because she was that phenomenal and she was the closest thing to perfection that he had ever known until his daughters were born. And so when you know that about him, and to know how he felt about her, and to know that, you know, you don't hear her speaking, you don't hear her talking very much or what have you, so you didn't know what you were going to get when she stepped up on that stage. For her to express herself in the fashion that she did was absolutely phenomenal. And I think that, you know, it touched everybody's heart, but it also put a lot of people at ease to some degree, because even though you find yourself mourning for her as well, you also found yourself a bit worried about her, because there's so much to consider because of her devastating loss. And then she shows you and puts her strength on display. And even though anybody associated with the NBA community and beyond is going to be there for her and her family in any way that any of us can, in the end, you sort of get the sense that this woman is so incredibly strong, that she's going to be okay. And then Jordan goes up there and he tells his story, and he's funny even though the tears are there. And Shaq with the M-E, there's no I in team, but there is an M-E, and that was hilarious. And Gino Auriemma talking about how he knew that Kobe was not coaching his daughter because she was open and she passed the ball. There was a lot of brevity that was brought to the situation and what have you. And so it was incredibly touching, to say the least. And that's what you walked away from, just feeling just an amalgamation of emotions, Max.
Yeah, Vanessa's a boss. I mean, she's a champ. And especially, there's no other way to say it. You know, if the father is gone, then she has more to do, even more to do. And you could see her kind of growing. I don't presume to know what she's like before this, but you could see someone stepping up and being very strong at a time where her family obviously needs her. It was very impressive and moving, obviously. Molly, I'm with you. When she said we're still the best team, it was like, you know.
Max,
Very
they've been
powerful.
together since, and I don't want to cut you off, but they've been together since she was 17 and a half. Her entire adult life is with Kobe.
Yep. That was very powerful. And I think that the thing that got me was the describing of the bedtime routine and how he would help put the kids to bed. Because if you're a parent, what you know is the days are long, but the years fly by, as my mother says. And that bedtime routine is the way she described it and what Kobe did. And I have 3 daughters. I know what that's about. And getting those kind of details was very moving. Jordan, of course, with the crying meme. And there was something about that. Kobe aimed for Jordan. He aimed to be the greatest of all time. And when the guy who he aimed at is there saying, hey, little, he's my little brother, it's not me. Kobe didn't need validation after 20 years in the NBA as one of the greatest players of all time. But Jordan, personal relationship aside, I think, and that was very strong there, understood what Kobe represented, and he felt the same way. That was really nice to see. And Shaq, Stephen A., the line that Shaq had about the ME, that was a good one. The one that's going to get lost that I loved was the end of that story when he's telling Rick and everyone, he's like, just rebound the ball. He ain't going to pass. He ain't passing. Mm-hmm. I mean, all the descriptions of Kobe by the people who knew him and loved him and worked with him fleshed out this kind of 3-dimensional portrait that you had a sense from Kobe already, but getting those details from those around him was something. But like both of you, you cannot come away from that not thinking about Vanessa. What a powerful moment that was, and woman she is. That was very impressive.
It was very, very difficult. It was a very difficult day for those who knew him and what have you. And the tribute was sensational. The Lakers organization, the NBA community showed up and showed out in full force. There's no question about that. But I also wanted to take a moment to say this, because I think it's very important. Nobody's brought this up for days, if not weeks. I brought it up once on First Take. I'm going to bring it up again. Regardless of what stuff has been in the news and all of this other stuff, we need to understand that Kobe Bryant is gone, and we're here for his wife, his children, the whole NBA community, no question about it. But Kobe Bryant has a mother and father. They were in attendance, and nobody has mentioned them on the air, off the air, at the ceremony, et cetera, et cetera. I understand nobody knows the details. I don't particularly care at this particular moment in time. It does not matter. But it is important to remember a lot of times that, what goes on in people's houses, their business. And there's a mother and a father that was in attendance. There's 2 siblings that lost their brother.
Yep.
And there's 2 siblings, there's 2 sisters that lost their brother. And there's a mother and a father that lost their child. And no matter what went on or whatever, tension existed or whatever the case may be, look at Joe Bryant's face when the cameras were on him yesterday. Look at the pain in that man's eyes. Look at the pain on his face. His son is gone. And I think that a lot of times, listen, we should mention Vanessa, and we should mention those wonderful children that he's left behind. There's no question about that. But I do think it's important to remember he had a mother and a father and 2 sisters that lost their son and lost their brother.
Stephen A., I'm so glad you brought that up. Pam Bryant, if you saw her during the ceremony, Kobe's the spitting image. But Joe Bryant, his father, he's mentioned before in interviews, that's how he fell in love with the game of basketball. Yeah. His father was a professional basketball player. Obviously, we know he played overseas, but that's really where that love came from. And you're right, they haven't been mentioned, and they deserve to be.
Yeah. I just think it's important because
listen, I appreciate you doing it. You're right.
We lean back and a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us engage in biblical verses whenever we choose to, and it does say honor thy mother and thy father. Mm-hmm. They brought you into this world, and you know what? Long before there was tension, they raised a beautiful son that was maniacal about winning and had a competitive spirit and was highly intelligent and what have you. His parents had something to do with that, and I just think it's important to remember that.
No question. He was such a special man, and obviously that's where it came from. One last thing I just want to share. We'll go to break here. How about the story that he learned to play Moonlight Sonata? How unbelievable is that?
Rob Pelinka was sensational as well.
My
in terms
goodness.
of the details. Yes. in terms of the details and being texted from the helicopter prior to the tragic accident. That's when Rob Pelinka was receiving those, you know, not that particular text message about playing the song, but, you know, just in terms of Kobe reaching out to try and help one of the kids get involved in baseball or what have you. And it was a tremendous story. And Rob
It was another
Pelinka,
microcosm of who Kobe is. And Alicia Keys' rendition was absolutely beautiful. But I thought to myself, my goodness, he learned to play Moonlight Sonata for his wife. So beautiful.
A lot of people loved him a lot.
Yeah.
And the closer they were to him, the more they loved him.
Okay. I believe in the power of prayer, and we will continue to uplift the Bryants through this difficult time. Let's take a quick break. More First Take.